These are my braces. They set me free. But these are my braces. They are not me. Without my braces, I sit in my chair. Without my braces, life's not fair. But put on my braces and I'm just like the others. Put on my braces and I run like my brothers. Well, not exactly, I'll have to admit. No. Well, not exactly, 'cause I had polio.
Poliomyelitis was an epidemic that shocked the United States. In the 1900s, North America was struck with a deadly virus that swept the nation, leaving the question, where is this disease coming from? Many people were greatly affected by the disease, causing them to experience paralysis. In addition, patients would endure muscle weakness, fatigue, and fever, symptoms that were commonly overlooked.
Richard Daggett states, I had 2 severe headaches a few days before I realized anything was wrong. On Friday, July 17, 1952, I woke up with a very stiff and painful neck and back.
People who had the virus were isolated from society, with street signs stating, keep off the street, infantile paralysis. This caused many people to fear for the worst and wonder when will things return. For many years, several people were suffering from this grim and dire disease. Polio was very contagious at this time and was uncontrollable until 1952, when a vaccine was developed.
There are 3 types of polio. The first type is subclinical, which may consist of no symptoms and makes up 95% of all polio cases. Non-paralytic is when the virus does not affect the central nervous system, but those affected will experience mild symptoms. The final type is paralytic, the rarest of the 3. This type causes partial, or in some cases total, paralysis. There are also 3 subcategories of paralytic polio: spinal, bulbar, and bulbospinal.
Polio was exchanged frequently between humans, especially to the more susceptible individuals. During the peak time of the disease, which occurred during World War II, many children were more likely to catch the disease because of their developing immune systems. The polio outbreak was one of America's major encounters with the disease, consisting of paralysis during this time period. Polio is a part of a poliovirus and is most commonly distributed through the stool.
From these advances, swimming pools were shut down during the summer. Scientists later found that the chemical chlorine, now in modern-day swimming pools, could inactivate the virus. The summertime is what people commonly referred to as polio season. An important American figure caught the deadly disease in 1921 from what is believed to be swimming in a lake. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was diagnosed with polio when he was 39 years old and was later elected for president in 1933.
Even though there are no known cures, there are many treatment options. One of the main figures of polio treatment was Sister Kenny, who evolved and expanded the treatment options. Many doctors and high figures were doubtful of her medical skills since she had no prior schooling in the medical field. Her methods for treating polio consisted of using hot packs and encouraging patients to participate in slow and steady physical activity.
Every day prior to therapy, I would get hot packs. These were wool blankets that were steam heated and spun dry, then wrapped around my arms, legs, and torso. They hoped that after a few weeks of using the iron lung, patients would be able to breathe on their own. Once patients' affected limbs were strong enough to function on their own, they had to relearn to walk. Another respirator and ventilator polio patients would use was the biphasic cuirass ventilation. The design of the biphasic cuirass ventilation was a turtle shell shape. However, post-polio survivors often required the assistance of leg braces and crutches.
A chest respirator that was kind of like a big turtle shell.
The number of people affected by this disease was growing rapidly, as was the terror associated with it. In this time of desperation, an answer was finally found. The scientist who discovered the much-needed vaccine for polio was Dr. Jonas Salk. While he was at school, he studied the vaccine for influenza. He later became the leader of the virus research lab at the University of Pittsburgh. Salk thought differently than most scientists. He explored many new ideas to come up with the formula for the polio vaccine.
Dr. Salk's first steps consisted of sorting the 125 strains in the virus. The strains fell into 3 basic types that defended the virus. Using formaldehyde, he killed the virus but kept it whole, so that it would trigger the body's reflexes. This was a major breakthrough which led to the exploration of the polio vaccine.
That was Dr. Jonas E. Salk, discoverer of the Salk vaccine for polio.
After this, numerous trials began to test the vaccine's effectiveness. Dr. Salk aimed one of his main trials at children who had recovered from the disease. He saw that after a survivor had taken the vaccine, their antibodies had expanded. Salk also performed the same experiment on his family and saw the same results. He reported his finding to the Journal of American Medical Association.
Why do I see things differently than the way other people see them? Why do I pursue the questions that I pursue, even if others regard them as they say, controversial, which merely means that they have a difference of opinion. They see things differently. So I'm interested both in nature and in the human side of nature and how the two can be brought together in an effective and useful way.
One of Salk's trials took a negative turn after a report of a young girl experiencing paralysis in her arm that had recently been vaccinated. Researchers later found that there had been a defective batch which caused paralysis in the area patients had just received the vaccine in.
The trials were then suspended for a short period of time while the clinicians were examining the situation. After the investigation, it became clear that the flawed vaccines were responsible for the deaths of 10 people and paralysis of numerous others. Health officials made several adjustments to the manufacturing of the vaccine after this incident.
Another big contributor to the creation of polio vaccine was Albert Sabin. He discovered that the virus was able to live inside the stomach and intestines. Sabin later found that polio could be treated orally. His main focus was to use an artificial form of the virus on the stomach, which he later transmitted to the intestines. This helped defeat the fatal polio virus in the intestines. Sabin and other researchers did tests out of the country and discovered that they had accomplished their goals in finding another way to eradicate polio around the world. But these accomplishments did not come without encountering difficulties. Sabin had used animal testing while trying to produce the oral vaccine.
A scientist who is also a human being cannot rest while knowledge which might be used to reduce the suffering rests on the shelf. By 1962, the number of polio cases in America dropped down to around 900. This was a huge relief in the United States, and many people finally felt that they were able to be brought out of isolation and live without fear of being the next victim. The medical field was ultimately strengthened from this exchange. Scientists and doctors knew now that you could take different strands of viruses and could make another form to protect from the virus.
Today, people have controversial ideas about getting vaccinated to inactive diseases. 1 in every 1 million kids have allergic reactions to vaccines. This disorder is called anaphylaxis. In some cases, people who aren't used to animal products and vaccines might show negative responses to vaccines and medicine.
But I need people to understand that it has not been eradicated. It's still out there, and people just need to be aware of it.
After recovery, between 20 and 40% of polio survivors experience post-polio syndrome, or PPS. The symptoms include muscle weakness, fatigue, muscle atrophy, and breathing problems, which are similar to those experienced while infected with the polio virus. After surviving the virus, neuron cells are severely damaged, causing discomfort and strain on joints and muscles.
The analogy I often use is that it is like plugging in 4 toasters to the same electric outlet. Eventually, you will blow a fuse. The main way to treat this affliction is to conserve energy and exercise the affected area. Fortunately, PPS is rarely fatal to survivors. Those who have recovered from polio showed courage and strength in the face of this deadly epidemic.
Despite the terrors of the polio outbreak, there have been many positive outcomes as a result of the virus. Our nation came together in the face of adversity, unified against this deadly disease. In addition, research that led to the life-saving polio vaccine has also assisted in other medical breakthroughs. Polio prematurely ended lives of many and caused a nationwide panic. In the long run, polio showed the heroism and will of those affected. Braces and crutches do not define us, but show our strengths.
And there are a lot of ways that polio has helped me in the long run. Just knowing that I have to be tough. You just have to be tough in this life, and you can either just sit home and feel sorry for yourself, or
I have had dreams, and I have had nightmares, but I have conquered my nightmares because of my dreams.